Billionaire handed her credit card to a homeless single father for 24 hours. What he did left her in tears. Rain poured over the city like the sky itself had given up. Luxury cars splashed through puddles while people hurried beneath expensive umbrellas, never noticing the father sitting quietly beneath an old bus shelter. His jacket was torn, his shoes were soaked, and his little daughter slept peacefully against his chest, completely unaware that they had nowhere to go that night. Across the street, a billionaire watched from inside a black limousine. She had spent her entire life believing money revealed a person's true character. That evening, she decided to test a stranger in a way no one could have imagined. She stepped out into the storm, walked toward the homeless father, and placed her unlimited credit card into his trembling hands. She gave him only one condition. He had exactly 24 hours to use it however he wanted. What happened before the next sunset changed two lives forever. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who still believes in second chances, and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories that remind us humanity is still alive. The homeless father was named Daniel. Just 3 years earlier, he had lived a simple but happy life with his wife Emily and their newborn daughter Lily. He worked as a construction supervisor, earning enough to pay rent and build dreams one paycheck at a time. Everything changed when Emily became seriously ill. The treatments were expensive, the hospital visits became endless, and Daniel sold nearly everything they owned just to keep hope alive. Despite every sacrifice, Emily passed away, leaving behind a grieving husband and a little girl who was too young to understand why her mother never came home. The emotional pain nearly destroyed Daniel, but losing his wife was only the beginning. Medical debt swallowed every remaining dollar he had. He lost his apartment, then his job after missing too many days caring for Lily. Friends slowly disappeared, embarrassed by their inability to help. Within months, Daniel and his daughter were living from one shelter to another. The billionaire's name was Victoria Hale. She had built one of the country's largest technology companies after years of relentless work. Magazines admired her wealth, investors praised her intelligence, and the public envied her success. Yet behind every smiling photograph was a woman carrying an invisible emptiness. Her parents had taught her that wealth meant responsibility, but after inheriting billions, she had encountered countless people pretending to need help while secretly trying to exploit her generosity. She had become cautious, almost cold. She wanted to believe good people still existed, but experience had slowly convinced her otherwise. When Victoria handed Daniel her credit card, she expected one of two outcomes. Either he would disappear forever with thousands of dollars in purchases, or he would waste the opportunity on temporary comfort. She quietly instructed her security team to observe him from a distance, promising they would never interfere unless someone was in danger. She wanted to see who Daniel truly was when nobody believed he was being watched. Daniel stood frozen for several minutes after Victoria drove away. He looked at the card as though it belonged to another universe. Hunger twisted inside his stomach, exhaustion clouded his thoughts, and fear whispered that this had to be some cruel joke. Yet Lily smiled sleepily and asked if they could finally eat somewhere warm. Daniel nodded, holding back tears. For the first time in months, he walked into a family restaurant through the front entrance instead of searching behind it for leftovers. He ordered simple meals instead of expensive dishes. Lily laughed while eating pancakes covered in strawberries, making Daniel realize he had almost forgotten what genuine happiness sounded like. The waitress offered desserts, but Daniel politely declined. Even with unlimited spending available, something inside him refused to waste money simply because he could. The billionaire's observers watched carefully, exchanging puzzled looks. This was not the behavior they expected. After breakfast, Daniel visited a clothing store. Instead of designer suits or luxury watches, he bought warm jackets, shoes, socks, and blankets. The employees assumed everything was for him until they watched him leave and walk toward a homeless shelter across town. There, he quietly distributed every purchase to elderly men, struggling mothers, and frightened teenagers sleeping on cold floors. He kept only one coat for Lily because winter nights had become dangerously cold. Hours continued passing, and every decision surprised Victoria even more. Daniel purchased children's books, coloring supplies, and toys before delivering them to a hospital pediatric ward. He paid for groceries for several struggling families waiting outside a community pantry. He settled overdue utility bills for an elderly couple whose electricity was about to be disconnected. Whenever someone thanked him, he simply smiled and kept walking, never mentioning the extraordinary credit card making these miracles possible. Victoria watched the security footage throughout the afternoon, becoming increasingly emotional. Every receipt represented compassion instead of greed. Every purchase reflected someone else's need before his own. Yet one question continued haunting her. Why had Daniel still not rented a hotel room for himself and Lily? As darkness approached, Daniel finally entered a small motel. Victoria assumed he was finally thinking about himself. Instead, he quietly paid for rooms for 4 families with young children who had been sleeping in their cars. Daniel and Lily accepted the final available room only after ensuring everyone else had a warm bed first. When Lily fell asleep beneath clean blankets, Daniel sat beside the window, staring into the night while silently crying for the first time since receiving the card. His tears were not for himself. They were for everyone he still could not help before the 24 hours ended. The next morning, Daniel woke early and carefully planned the remaining hours. He visited a local employment center, purchasing professional clothing for unemployed workers preparing for interviews. He anonymously donated school supplies to an elementary school where teachers had been buying materials with their own salaries. He filled backpacks with food for children who depended on school lunches as their only reliable meals. By noon, the card had become far more than a financial gift. It had become a bridge connecting strangers through kindness. Every person Daniel helped unknowingly inspired someone else to continue the chain. A grocery cashier secretly paid for another customer's groceries after witnessing Daniel's generosity. A restaurant owner offered free meals to struggling veterans. Volunteers at the shelter worked longer hours than usual because hope suddenly felt contagious. Victoria could barely believe what she was witnessing. She had expected financial transactions. Instead, she was watching compassion spread across an entire city. Only 1 hour remained. Daniel entered a small flower shop and bought fresh white lilies. He then traveled to the cemetery where Emily rested. He placed the flowers gently beside her headstone while Lily sat quietly holding his hand. Daniel remained there for nearly 30 minutes, reflecting on the promises he had made years earlier. He whispered that he had tried his best to become the father Emily believed he could be. Although life had taken everything from them, kindness had somehow survived. The security team stopped recording. Several members quietly wiped away tears. As the 24 hours came to an end, Daniel returned the credit card exactly where Victoria had first found him. He sat on the same weathered bench, waiting patiently beneath another gray evening sky. When Victoria arrived, she expected excuses, explanations, or perhaps requests for more help. Instead, Daniel simply handed back the card with sincere gratitude written across his exhausted face. Victoria reviewed the final spending report while standing beside him. Every purchase had a purpose. Not $1 had been spent on luxury, entertainment, or selfish comfort. Then she reached the final transaction. It was only $12. A small notebook. Confused, she asked what it was for. Daniel explained that Lily loved drawing pictures. He wanted her to remember hope instead of homelessness. Every page would remind her that even during life's darkest days, people could still choose kindness. That answer shattered the emotional walls Victoria had spent years building. For the first time in decades, she cried openly. She realized that while she possessed unimaginable wealth, Daniel possessed something far rarer. Even after losing nearly everything, he had refused to lose his humanity. Victoria made a decision that transformed both their futures. She purchased a comfortable home where Daniel and Lily could finally begin again. She arranged counseling to help them heal from years of grief and instability. She offered Daniel a leadership position within her charitable foundation, not because she pitied him, but because she trusted his heart. She believed that someone who understood hardship would never forget the people still living through it. Daniel accepted with quiet humility. Over the following years, he helped create programs providing emergency housing, job training, childcare, and financial counseling for struggling single parents. Thousands of families found hope through initiatives inspired by one extraordinary day and one extraordinary choice. Lily grew into a confident young woman who never forgot the rainy evening that changed her life. She often volunteered beside her father, reminding children that their current circumstances did not define their future. She carried the little notebook everywhere, its pages now filled with colorful drawings of homes, smiling families, and people helping strangers. On the final page, she had written a simple sentence that became the foundation's unofficial motto: "The richest hearts are not the ones that keep the most, but the ones that give the most." If this story touched your heart and reminded you that one act of kindness can change generations, please like this video, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to the channel so together we can spread more inspiring stories around the world. Special request: tell us in the comments, what is the kindest thing a stranger has ever done for you? Your story might inspire someone who needs hope today. As the sun set over the city once more, Victoria stood outside the same bus shelter where everything had begun. Thousands of people passed by without realizing that one small decision made there had transformed countless lives. She understood that money alone had never been the miracle. The miracle was finding someone who treated a gift not as an opportunity to become richer, but as a chance to make the world gentler for complete strangers. Sometimes the greatest fortunes are not measured by the numbers in a bank account but by the number of hearts forever changed through compassion. And on that unforgettable day, a homeless single father proved that true wealth begins where selfishness ends.